The morning alarm rang through the metal halls of the ship Eternal Harmony. Commander Hyunwoo Park opened his eyes and looked at the gray ceiling above his bed. Another day in space. Another day serving the Galactic Coalition. Hyunwoo got dressed. In his blue uniform with the Coalition symbol on his chest, the symbol showed 3 circles connected by lines. It meant unity. It meant order. It meant that every species knew their place in the galaxy. He walked to the bridge where his team was already working. So-young Kim sat at the communications desk, her fingers moving fast over the buttons. She was the best at talking to other ships and planets. Tae-ho Lee worked on the ship's engines, making sure everything ran smoothly. Yoonji Cho checked the medical equipment, ready to help anyone who got hurt. "Good morning, Commander," So-young said without looking up from her screen. "We are getting close to the dead planet." Hyunwoo nodded. The dead planet was called Kepler 442b. Scientists said nothing lived there anymore. The Coalition wanted them to look for old alien technology. They always did this. Find old things, study them, use them to make the Coalition stronger. The ship moved through space toward the brown and gray planet below. No clouds, no oceans, no life, just rock and dust and old ruins from whatever species used to live there. "Take us down, Tae-ho," Hyunwoo said. The ship shook as they entered the planet's atmosphere. Through the windows, Hyunwoo could see broken buildings scattered across the surface. Whoever lived here was gone now. The Coalition called it natural selection. Weak species died. Strong ones lived. That was the rule. They landed near the biggest ruin. It looked like a temple or maybe a government building. Tall stone walls covered in strange symbols that no one could read anymore. Hyunwoo, So-young, Tae-ho and Yoonji put on their breathing masks and left the ship. The air outside was thin and cold. Their boots made crunching sounds on the dead ground. "The energy readings are coming from inside that building," Tae-ho said, looking at his scanner. "Something is still working in there." They walked through a hole in the wall that used to be a door. Inside, the building was dark except for a soft blue light coming from deep underground. They followed metal stairs down into the earth. The stairs went down for a long time. Finally, they reached a big round room. In the center stood something amazing. It was a crystal, tall as a person, floating in the air and spinning slowly. Blue light poured out of it like water. "I have never seen anything like this," Yoonji whispered. So-young took out her recording device and started taking pictures. "The Coalition scientists will want to see this." But Tae-ho was frowning at his scanner. "This is not just any crystal. Look at these readings. This thing has more power than our entire ship." Hyunwoo walked closer to the crystal. As he got near, symbols appeared in the air around it. The same symbols that were on the walls upstairs, but now they were glowing and moving like living things. "Commander," So-young said, her voice excited, "my translator is picking up something. The symbols, they are trying to tell us something." The symbols changed and moved faster. Then suddenly, they formed pictures that everyone could understand. Pictures of stars, pictures of planets, pictures of doorways that connected distant places. "Gates," Tae-ho said. "These are maps to gates that can take you anywhere in the galaxy." The crystal pulsed brighter. More images appeared. Images of the species that used to live on this planet. They looked almost human, but with silver skin and 4 arms. The images showed them building huge doorways between the stars. The images showed them traveling instantly from one world to another. Then the images changed. They showed ships arriving. Ships with the Coalition symbol. Ships with Veltar inside them. The images showed the silver people trying to surrender. They showed the Veltar killing them anyway. They showed the planet dying. "The Coalition destroyed them," Yoonji said quietly. "Even though they tried to give up." Hyunwoo felt cold inside his chest. The Coalition always said they only destroyed species that fought back. They said they were bringing peace to the galaxy. But these images showed something different. So-young was recording everything when her communication device started making noise. "Commander, we have a message coming in." The voice that came through was sharp and cold. It belonged to High Chancellor Zefthara of the Veltar. Human vessel, you will stop your activities immediately. The artifact you have found belongs to the Coalition. We are Coalition members too, Hyunwoo said into the communicator. We are just following our mission. Humans are not worthy of such knowledge, Zefthara replied. You will hand over all recordings and data, then you will be processed. Processed. Hyunwoo knew what that meant. It meant death. Taeho was working fast at his controls. Commander, I can copy all the data from the crystal, but it will take time. How much time? 10 minutes. So Young looked at her communications screen. 3 coalition ships just appeared above us. They are coming down fast. Hyunwoo looked at his team. These people had worked with him for 5 years. They trusted him. They followed his orders. Now he had to make the hardest choice of his life. Download everything, he told Taeho. So Young, prepare to send all data to Earth. Everything we have learned. What about us? Yoonji asked. Hyunwoo looked at the crystal. The images were still showing the death of the Silver People. A whole species murdered because they knew too much. Now it was happening again. We make sure Earth gets the truth, he said. The building shook as coalition ships landed outside. Heavy footsteps echoed down the stairs. The Veltar were coming. Taeho's hands moved over his controls. Data download at 60%. The footsteps got louder, voices speaking in the clicking language of the Veltar. 70%. So Young prepared the transmission equipment, ready to send to Earth on your command. 80%. The Veltar appeared at the bottom of the stairs. They were tall creatures made of living crystal, their bodies shining with inner light. They carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. 90%. Surrender the data, the lead Veltar said. His voice sounded like breaking glass. 95%. Hyunwoo drew his simple human weapon. It used bullets instead of energy. The Veltar laughed at seeing it. Download complete, Taeho said. Send it. Hyunwoo ordered. So Young pressed the button. All the data, all the images, all the truth about the gates and the murdered species shot up through space toward Earth. The Veltar raised their weapons. You have made a grave error, humans. Hyunwoo smiled. No. We did exactly what we had to do. The weapons fired. Blue energy filled the room. But as the light faded and the humans fell, the crystal pulsed one last time. It sent its own message across the galaxy. A message in the old language of the dead species. A message that said, remember us, remember them, remember that some things are worth dying for. The last thing Hyunwoo saw was So Young's hand reaching for her communicator. With her final breath, she whispered into it, tell them we never surrendered. Far above, the message traveled through space toward Earth. It carried the location of every gate in the galaxy. It carried the truth about the Coalition. And it carried the final words of 4 humans who chose death over submission. The Veltar thought they had won. They did not know that humans had colonies scattered across the galaxy. They did not know that Earth had been preparing for this day. They did not know that killing humans would not stop humans. They had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. The message from Kepler 442b reached Earth 3 days later. Admiral Mi-ran Yoon was drinking coffee in her office when the alert came through. She put down her cup and read the transmission twice. Then she read it again. The data was impossible to believe. Maps to ancient gates that could move ships across the galaxy in seconds. Proof that the Coalition had murdered entire species. And the final message from Commander Hyunwoo's team. Mi-ran stood up and walked to her window. Outside, she could see Earth's defense ships floating in space around the planet. 12 ships total. The Coalition had thousands. Her assistant, Captain Jong-Soo Han, came into the office. Admiral, we are getting reports from our deep space sensors. Coalition fleets are moving toward Earth from 6 different directions. Mi-ran was not surprised. The Coalition always moved fast when they wanted to destroy something. How many ships? Over 300, ma'am, led by High Chancellor Zefthara himself. 300 ships against 12. Mi-ran had fought in space battles before, but never against odds like this. Still, she felt calm. She had always known this day might come. Humans were too different, too stubborn, too willing to ask questions that the Coalition did not want answered. "Send the data to all human colonies," she ordered. "Every settlement, every mining station, every research post, they need to know what we learned." "Yes, ma'am." Miran looked at the crystal data one more time. The ancient gates could move ships instantly across space, but they needed huge amounts of power to work, more power than any human ship could make. She pressed a button on her desk. "Get me Dr. Ginny Song." Dr. Song appeared on the screen a few minutes later. She was a small woman with tired eyes who spent all her time studying alien technology. Behind her, Miran could see scientists working at computers and lab tables. "Doctor, have you studied the data from Kepler 442b? "Yes, Admiral, it is incredible. These gates could change everything, but there is a problem." "What problem?" "The power requirements. To open just one gate needs more energy than our biggest reactor can make. We would need something much stronger." Miran thought about this. "What about nuclear weapons? We still have some of the old missiles." Dr. Song's eyes got wide. "You want to use nuclear bombs to power the gates?" "If that is what it takes. It might work, but it would be very dangerous. One mistake and we could destroy our own solar system." "Doctor, in 12 hours the Coalition is going to destroy our solar system anyway. We have nothing to lose." While Dr. Song started working on the gate problem, Miran called a meeting with all the ship captains. They gathered in the command room on the space station above Earth. 12 captains for 12 ships. All of them knew they were going to die. Captain Subin Kang spoke first. "Admiral, our weapons cannot hurt Coalition ships. Their shields are too strong." "I know," Miran said, "but we are not trying to win a normal battle." She showed them the data from the crystal. She explained about the gates and the murdered species. She told them about Dr. Song's plan to use nuclear weapons to power a gate. "Our job is to buy Dr. Song time," Miran said. "Every minute we keep fighting is another minute for her to work." Captain Wu Jin Han raised his hand. "What happens if she succeeds? What happens if she opens a gate? Then maybe some of us escape, maybe we find allies. Maybe we find a way to make the Coalition pay for what they have done." The captains looked at each other. They all knew the real answer. None of them would escape. They would all die here, fighting impossible odds, hoping that their deaths would mean something. "Any questions?" Miran asked. Captain Dong Hyun Choi stood up. "Just one, Admiral. When do we start?" 8 hours later, the Coalition fleet arrived. Miran watched from the bridge of her flagship Indomitable Spirit as the enemy ships appeared like stars in the darkness, hundreds of them, each one 10 times bigger than the largest human ship. The Coalition sent a message. "Humans of Earth, you have stolen sacred knowledge. You will surrender all data and submit to processing. You have 1 hour to comply." Miran looked at her crew. Communications Officer Young-Soo Park was ready at his station. Weapons Officer Hee-Jin Cho had her fingers on the firing controls. Navigator Min-Ho Kim was plotting attack courses even though everyone knew they were suicide runs. "Send our reply," Miran told Young-Soo. "What should I tell them, Admiral?" Miran smiled. "Tell them humans do not surrender." The hour passed quickly. Dr. Song called from Earth to report her progress. "I think I can make it work, Admiral, but I need more time, maybe 6 more hours." "You will have it," Miran promised. When the Coalition started shooting, the sky filled with fire. Energy beams cut through space like deadly lightning. The first human ship died in seconds. Captain Wu Jin Han's destroyer Rising Sun simply disappeared in a ball of light. But the humans fought back. Their weapons were weak, but they were fast and smart. Captain Subin Kang flew her cruiser Steel Wind straight at a Coalition battleship, firing all weapons. Her bullets could not hurt the big ship, but they made it turn to follow her. While it chased her, 2 other human ships attacked it from behind. The Coalition ships were stronger, but they fought like machines. They followed rules and patterns. The humans fought like wild animals, changing direction and tactics every few seconds. Miran watched Captain Dong Hyun Choi ram his damaged ship into a coalition cruiser. Both ships exploded, but the coalition lost a ship worth 1,000 human vessels. "Admiral," Young Soo called out. "Dr. Song is reporting problems. The nuclear reactors are not working right." On the battle display, Miran could see that only 6 human ships were still fighting. Half her fleet was gone, but they had destroyed 8 coalition ships. Not bad for primitive humans with primitive weapons. Another explosion lit up space. Captain Hee-jin Park's ship Morningstar died trying to protect a damaged human cruiser. The coalition was winning, but they were learning that humans cost more to kill than they expected. "Admiral," Dr. Song's voice came through the speakers. "I need 2 more hours, please." 2 more hours. Miran looked at her remaining ships. They would not last 2 more hours. Maybe they would not last 1 more hour. But then she had an idea. A crazy, dangerous, stupid idea that might just work. "All ships, this is Admiral Yoon," she said into her communicator. "New plan. We are going to ram them." The voices of her captains came back immediately. "Yes, ma'am. Ready to ram." For Earth. For humanity, Miran felt proud and sad at the same time. These brave people would die for an idea. They would die so that maybe, somewhere, other humans would live free. The indomitable spirit turned toward the biggest coalition ship, a massive crystal battleship that sparkled like a diamond in space. Miran pushed the engines to full power. "All power to forward shields," she ordered. "Young Soo, send one final message to Earth." "What should it say, Admiral?" Miran thought about Commander Hyunwoo and his team. She thought about all the humans who had died today. She thought about all the humans who would die tomorrow. "Tell them we never surrendered." The indomitable spirit hit the coalition battleship at full speed. Both ships exploded in a fire so bright it could be seen from Earth. But as the fire faded, something else happened. Dr. Song's voice came through space, crackling with static, but clear enough to understand. "Gate activation successful." "Repeat, gate activation successful." On Earth, a circle of light opened in the sky above the planet. It was a doorway to somewhere else. Through it came ships, not human ships, ships belonging to the silver-skinned species from the old images. The species the coalition said was extinct, but they were not extinct. They had been hiding, waiting, hoping that someday someone would find their gates and set them free. The silver ships moved toward the coalition fleet. Their weapons were different from human weapons and different from coalition weapons. They fired beams of pure white light that cut through the strongest shields like they were made of paper. High Chancellor Zefthara's voice screamed across all communication channels. "Impossible! The Ashani are dead. We killed them all." But the EU. Silver ships kept coming, and with them came other ships from other species that the coalition claimed to have destroyed. All of them had been waiting in hidden places, keeping their people alive, hoping for rescue. The battle turned. The coalition, ships that had been winning, suddenly found themselves surrounded by enemies they thought were gone forever. Ships began exploding on both sides, but now the coalition was losing. On Earth, Dr. Song watched through her laboratory window as the space battle raged above. The gate was still open, still bringing through more ships. She had done it. She had brought back the dead. But the cost was terrible. Earth's entire defense fleet was gone. Thousands of humans had died in space. And this was just the beginning. Dr. Song knew that opening the gate would bring war to the entire galaxy. The coalition would not let this challenge to their power go unanswered. They would send everything they had to destroy Earth and close the gates forever. She looked at the data from the crystal one more time. Hidden in the star maps was something else. Information about other gates. Bigger gates. Gates that could do more than just move ships. Gates that could move entire planets. Dr. Song started making new calculations. If humans were going to fight, the coalition, they would need every advantage they could get, even if it meant paying a price too terrible to imagine. The second battle for Earth began at dawn on a Tuesday. Captain Hyojin Lee was eating breakfast with her team when the alarm started screaming. Through the windows of their ship Never Surrender, they could see space filling with enemy vessels. 2. 1,000 coalition ships had come to kill humanity. The sky looked like someone had thrown diamonds across black cloth, except each diamond was a ship designed to destroy planets. "All human ships, this is Earth Command," came the voice over the radio. "The enemy fleet is 10 times larger than our first battle. All civilian ships evacuate immediately. Military ships prepare for final defense." Hyo Jin looked at her crew. Engineer Dal Hyun Kim was checking weapon systems. Scientist Bo Ram Choi was studying the enemy formation on her computers. Soldier Yan Woo Nam was cleaning his rifle even though bullets would not hurt spaceships. "This is it," Hyo Jin said quietly. "Our mission to reach the Master Gate will have to wait. Today we fight for Earth." Dal Hyun looked up from his controls. "Captain, our ship is not built for battle. We are explorers, not fighters." "Then we will explore new ways to die," Hyo Jin replied with a sad smile. On the surface of Earth, Dr. Jin Song watched the enemy fleet through a telescope. So many ships, too many to count. The coalition had brought their entire military to destroy one small planet. Her assistant, Dr. Min Jun Park, ran into the observatory. "Dr. Song, the government wants to evacuate you to the underground bunkers." "No," Dr. Song said, still looking through the telescope. "My place is here with the equipment. Doctor, if you die, all your knowledge dies with you. If Earth dies, knowledge will not matter anymore." Through the telescope, Dr. Song could see the coalition ships getting ready to attack. Their weapons were charging with bright light. Soon they would start shooting and everything she had ever loved would burn. But she had one more surprise for them. "Dr. Park, activate the planetary defense grid." Dr. Park looked confused. "What planetary defense grid? We do not have one." Dr. Song smiled. "We do now." All around Earth, hidden machines came to life. They had been built in secret over the past 2 weeks using Ashani technology. Not shields or weapons, but something much more dangerous. Gate generators. "What are you doing?" Dr. Park asked as he watched the readings on his computer. "I am turning our entire planet into a gate," Dr. Song said calmly. "If the coalition wants to destroy Earth, they will have to follow us first." In space, the battle began. Coalition ships fired their energy weapons at the small group of human vessels trying to protect Earth. Captain Sumin Kang's destroyer, Last. Hope died in the first few seconds, cut in half by a beam of purple light, but the humans fought back with everything they had. Captain Junho Park flew his fighter straight into the engine of a coalition cruiser. The explosion destroyed both ships but also damaged 3 more enemy vessels nearby. Captain Youngmi Lim turned her transport ship into a missile, loading it with nuclear bombs and crashing it into a coalition battleship. The flash of light could be seen from the surface of Earth. "Humans are fighting unusually," observed Admiral Sithakol of the coalition fleet. "They do not retreat when they should retreat." His second-in-command, Commander Velthok, agreed. "They fight like they want to die. It does not make tactical sense." "It makes perfect sense," said a new voice. Through the communication system came the sound of High Chancellor Zefthara himself. His flagship had arrived with reinforcements. "They know they cannot win, so they are trying to cost us as many ships as possible." "Why would they do that?" Velthok asked. "Because they hope other species will see how much it costs to fight humans. They hope to inspire rebellion through their deaths." Admiral Sithkol understood. "Then we must kill them quickly before other species notice." "Exactly. Use the planet killer missiles. Turn Earth into dust in one attack." Down on Earth, Dr. Song watched her instruments as the coalition prepared their biggest weapons. Planet killer missiles were designed to crack worlds in half. Nothing could survive them. "Doctor, the gate generators are at maximum power," Dr. Park reported, "but I do not understand what you are trying to do." "I am opening a gate big enough for an entire planet to travel through." Dr. Park's face went white. "That is impossible. The power requirements would be enormous." "Yes," Dr. Song agreed. "It will require all the nuclear power on Earth. Every reactor, every weapon, everything. If we use all our nuclear power at once, it will kill everyone on the planet." "I know. Dr. Park stared at her. You are planning to destroy Earth ourselves? I am planning to save it. The gate will move our planet to a safe place before the radiation kills us. But the journey will take time. Most people will die during the trip. How many people? Dr. Song looked at her calculations. Maybe 10% will survive, if we are lucky. Dr. Park sat down heavily in his chair. You are asking me to help kill 7 billion people. I am asking you to help save 700 million people. The coalition is going to kill everyone. Anyway, this way some humans live. In space, the coalition planet-killer missiles launched. Massive weapons the size of buildings flew toward Earth. Each one could destroy a continent. There were 12 of them. Dr. Song, came a voice over the radio. This is Captain Hyojin Lee. My ship is in position near the enemy flagship. We can see the missiles coming. How long do we have? Dr. Song asked. 3 minutes until impact. Dr. Song looked at her controls. The gate generators needed 2 more minutes to reach full power. It would be very close. All stations, this is Dr. Song, she announced to every human on Earth. I am about to activate the planetary gate. This will save some of us, but not all of us. I am sorry. Remember that we never surrendered. She pressed the button. Every nuclear reactor on Earth exploded at the same time. Not weapons explosions, but controlled releases of energy that fed into the gate generators. The sky filled with light as space itself began to tear open. People all over the planet saw the light and knew they were about to die. In the cities, families held each other close. In the countryside, farmers looked up at the burning sky. In the oceans, sailors felt their ships shake as the water began to boil. But they did not panic. They did not scream. They whispered to each other, "We never surrendered." The planet-killer missiles hit Earth just as the gate opened. 12 explosions powerful enough to crack continents struck the surface. But instead of destroying the planet, something impossible happened. Earth fell through space. The entire planet, with its burning continents and boiling oceans, dropped through the gate like a stone falling through water. The coalition missiles followed, still exploding, still trying to destroy their target. In space, the coalition fleet watched in shock as Earth simply vanished. Where did it go? Admiral Sithcole demanded. Scanners show nothing, Velthok reported. The planet is gone. Impossible, planets cannot disappear. But Earth was gone. Along with it went the hope of destroying humanity completely. Somewhere in the galaxy, a burned and dying world was carrying the last humans to safety. High Chancellor Zefthara's voice screamed across the communication channels. Find them! Search every system! They cannot hide a planet forever. On the eye, dying Earth? Now traveling through the strange space between stars, Dr. Song lay on the floor of her laboratory. The radiation was killing her slowly, but she could still see her instruments. The gate had worked. Earth was moving through space toward a system the Ashani had told her about. A place with 3 suns and no coalition ships. A place where humans could try to rebuild. But the cost was terrible. All around the planet, people were dying from radiation poisoning. Cities were burning from the nuclear reactors. The oceans were full of poison. Most of humanity would die during the journey. Doctor. Park crawled over to where she lay. He was dying too. Doctor, was it worth it? Dr. Song looked at her computer screen. It showed messages coming in from human colonies across the galaxy. They had seen Earth disappear. They knew what it meant. Yes, she whispered. Now they know. Humans can do the impossible. Captain Hyojin Lee's ship Never Surrender had followed Earth through the gate. Her crew was dying from radiation exposure, but they were still alive long enough to send messages. This is Captain Lee to all human colonies, she broadcast across the galaxy. Earth has survived. We lost most of our people, but we saved some. The coalition could not destroy us completely. Captain, Engineer Dalhyun Kim said weakly, the ship is failing. We will not live much longer. Then we make sure our last message is a good one, Hyojin replied. She changed the broadcast to reach every species in the galaxy, not just humans. This is Captain Hyojin Lee of the human ship Never Surrender. Today the Coalition tried to destroy our planet with 2,000 ships and 12 planet-killer missiles. They failed. Our planet is gone, but our people live. We paid the ultimate price, but we proved something important. Her voice grew stronger as she continued. We proved that no empire, no matter how powerful, can destroy an idea. The idea that all species deserve to be free. The idea that might does not make right. The idea that some things are worth dying for. The broadcast reached every corner of the galaxy. On 100 worlds, species that had lived under Coalition rule for centuries heard the words of a dying human woman. The Coalition calls us primitive because we use nuclear weapons and chemical rockets. They call us weak because we have small ships. 5 years passed after Earth disappeared. Colonel Kyung-Soo Jang stood on the observation deck of New Busan, an asteroid mining station that had become the largest human colony left in the galaxy. Through the thick glass, he could see his fighters, practicing attack runs on old mining equipment. They were not real soldiers. Most had been miners, farmers, or shop owners before the war. But 5 years of fighting the Coalition had turned them into something harder than steel. They flew damaged ships held together with spare parts and prayers. They used weapons stolen from dead enemies. And they never, ever gave up. "Colonel," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Hae-Won Park, "we are getting signals from the Taeyang system. Coalition patrol ships are attacking the refugee camp there." Kyung-Soo closed his eyes. The Taeyang refugees were families who had escaped from destroyed human worlds. Old people, children, sick people. They could not fight back. How many Coalition ships? 6 cruisers and a battleship. Kyung-Soo had 12 fighters total. All of them were damaged from their last battle. Going up against 7 Coalition ships was suicide. "Prep all fighters for launch," he ordered. Lieutenant Park looked at him with worry. "Sir, we cannot win against those odds." "We are not trying to win, Lieutenant. We are trying to make sure those families have time to escape." In the Coalition capital on Veltharos, Marshal Velthok studied reports from across the galaxy. The human problem was getting worse, not better. Every time they destroyed a human colony, 2 more appeared. Every time they killed human fighters, more humans learned to fight. "The humans are like a disease," he told his assistant commander, Zithara. "Cut off one part and it grows back stronger." "Should we change our tactics, Marshal?" "No. Supreme Overlord Kethmaran is clear. Total extinction. Every human must die." But Velthok was starting to have doubts. In 5 years of hunting humans, he had captured many of them alive for questioning. He wanted to understand why they kept fighting when they could not win. The answers always confused him. "Why do you not surrender?" He had asked a human prisoner named Seung-Jun Kim, an engineer from a destroyed mining station. "Because surrender means accepting that you are right," the human had answered. "It means agreeing that strong species should rule weak species. It means becoming part of the system that kills children. You will die anyway. Your resistance changes nothing." The human had smiled. "Maybe. But my children will see that I chose to die rather than kneel. And their children will remember that humans never gave up." Every human prisoner said similar things. They talked about children they would never see grow up. They talked about principles more important than life. They talked about hope. Velthok did not understand hope. On the hidden research station orbiting a dead star, Professor Na-Young Lim worked on equations that made her head hurt. She was trying to solve the biggest problem in human science: how to power a nexus gate without destroying everything around it. The Ashani had given her access to their old research, but their technology was built for their crystal-based energy systems. Human technology was different, more crude, but also more flexible. "Professor," called her assistant, Dr. Jun Hyuk Oh, "I think I found something." Na-Young looked at his calculations. They were terrible and beautiful at the same time. "This would work," she said slowly, "but the power source would require the life energy of about 50,000 people," Dr. Oh finished. "I know. That is why I almost did not show you." Na-Young stared at the numbers. 50,000 people would have to die to open one gate. But through that gate, they could reach the master gates in Andromeda. And with the master gates, they could send warnings back in time to save millions. Keep working on it, she told Dr. O. Maybe we can find a way to reduce the number. But she knew they probably could not. The universe had rules, and those rules demanded a price for everything. If humans wanted to break the laws of time itself, they would have to pay with their lives. Back on New Busan, Colonel Kyung-soo's fighters returned from the Taiyang system. Only 8 came back. 4 pilots had died buying time for the refugee families to escape. Lieutenant Haewon Park was crying as she helped the wounded pilots out of their ships. We saved maybe 300 people, she reported, and lost 4 fighters we cannot replace. Was it worth it? Kyung-soo asked quietly. Ask me in 50 years when those 300 people have children and grandchildren who are still free. That night, Kyung-soo received a coded message from Professor Na-young. She needed volunteers for an experiment. 50,000 volunteers, who were willing to die for a small chance to change history. Kyung-soo called a meeting of all the humans on New Busan. Miners, engineers, families, children, old people. Everyone crowded into the main assembly hall. I am going to tell you about a choice, he said. Professor Lim believes she can open a gate to the master gate system. If she succeeds, we might be able to send warnings back in time. We might be able to save Earth. We might be able to prevent this war from ever happening. The crowd listened, quietly. They had learned not to hope too much. But opening the gate will require the life energy of 50,000 people. Volunteers who are willing to die so that maybe, somewhere, other humans will live. An old miner named Daeho Shin raised his hand. Colonel, how do we know this will work? We do not know. The chances are very small. Professor Lim thinks maybe 1% chance of success. And if it fails? Then 50,000 people die for nothing. The hall was silent for a long time. Then a young woman named Yoon Hye Choi stood up. Colonel, I volunteer. An old man named Gildong Park stood up next. I volunteer too. Then more people stood. Hundreds of them. People with families, people with plans, people who wanted to live. All of them willing to die for a 1% chance to save humanity. By morning, 60,000 people had volunteered. Kyung-soo had to turn away 10,000 because they did not need that many. 2 weeks later, the coalition found New Busan. Marshal Velthok arrived with a fleet of 30 ships. He had been hunting Colonel Kyung-soo for 3 years. Finally, he had tracked down the human leader. This is Marshal Velthok to the asteroid colony. You are surrounded. Surrender immediately and you will be processed quickly. Colonel Kyung-soo activated the public address system. This is Colonel Jang to Marshal Velthok. Humans do not surrender. Then you will die slowly instead of quickly. We were already dying slowly. Now we get to die for something that matters. Velthok ordered the attack. Coalition ships surrounded the asteroid and began firing. But as their weapons hit the rock surface, something strange happened. The entire asteroid began to glow. Professor Na-young had moved her equipment to New Busan. As coalition weapons destroyed the surface facilities, her gate generators deep inside, the asteroid absorbed the energy. The death of the colony was powering the very gate that might save humanity. Professor, Dr. O called out as the ceiling collapsed around them. The gate is opening. Through the hole in space, Na-young could see something impossible. The master gate station in Andromeda, 2 million light-years away. Ancient Ashani technology that could send messages backward in time. But the gate was unstable. It would only stay open for a few minutes. I need to go through, Na-young told her team. Someone has to reach the controls and send the warning. Professor, you will never survive the journey. The radiation alone will kill you. I know. Na-young stepped toward the gate. Around her, New Busan was dying. Coalition weapons were tearing apart the asteroid. 50,000 people were giving their lives to keep the gate open for just a few more seconds. As she reached the edge of the gate, Colonel Kyung-soo's voice came over the communication system one last time. This is New Busan to all human colonies. We are about to die, but we are not surrendering. Remember us. Remember that we chose this. Na-young jumped through the gate. The journey through space was like being torn apart and put back together 1,000,000 times. She felt her body burning, her mind breaking, her heart stopping. But somehow she held on long enough to reach the other side. The Master Gate station was huge and empty and ancient. Ashani writing covered the walls in flowing silver script. At the center of the station sat a crystal console that hummed with power. Na Young crawled to the console. Her body was failing, but her mind was still working. She had studied Ashani, technology, for 5 years. She knew what buttons to press. The time message system activated. Through the console, she could send a warning back in time. Not very far, maybe a few days, but far enough to warn Earth about the coalition attack that started this war. With her dying hands, she typed a simple message. Coalition will attack Earth on Tuesday dawn. Prepare gates, save the children, never surrender. The message shot backward through time, racing toward a day 5 years ago when Earth was still whole, and humans still believed the coalition was their friend. On New Busan, the last humans died as the asteroid exploded. Colonel Kyung-soo held Lieutenant Park's hand as the coalition weapons finally broke through to their shelter. Did it work? She whispered. We will never know, he replied. But we did our part. The explosion could be seen from 3 star systems away. But in the ruins of the Master Gate station, something was happening. The ancient Ashani computers were processing Na Young's message. They were calculating trajectories through time. The message from the future changed everything. Admiral Miran Yoon had 12 hours to prepare for an attack she now knew was coming. Dr. Jin Song had 12 hours to build defenses that might save Earth. But they also had something else. The knowledge that humans would never surrender, no matter what the cost. All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Yoon, Miran announced over the emergency channel. Coalition forces will attack at dawn. This is not a drill. Prepare for total war. Across the solar system, human ships moved into defensive positions. But this time was different. This time they were not surprised. This time they had a plan. Dr. Song worked through the night with the Ashani who had already arrived through the first gate. Talwir helped her understand technologies that would have taken years to figure out alone. The message from your future self is very specific, Talwir said, his 4 silver arms moving gracefully over the control panels. Gates must be ready. Children must be saved. This suggests a different strategy than last time. What do you mean last time? Time is like a river that splits into many streams. In one stream, your Earth was destroyed and moved to safety. In this stream, perhaps Earth can survive without moving. Dr. Song understood. The timeline had changed, but the outcome still depended on human choices. They could still choose to fight. They could still choose to die rather than surrender. When the coalition fleet arrived, they found something they did not expect. Earth was ready. As High Chancellor Zefthera's ships moved into attack position, space around Earth filled with light. Not weapon fire, but gates opening. Dozens of them. Through the gates came Ashani ships, but also ships from other species that the coalition thought were extinct. The Kethamori, who looked like living shadows. The Vrentak, whose vessels were grown from metal-eating bacteria. The Zilnari, whose ships could phase in and out of normal space. Impossible, Zefthara hissed through his communication system. These species are dead. We destroyed them ourselves. No, came Admiral Yoon's voice from her flagship. You drove them into hiding. Now they have come home. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Coalition ships with their energy weapons and crystal armor faced an alliance of species using technologies from across time and space. Captain Hyojin Lee, who in the other timeline had died sending her final message, now flew her ship Never Surrender alongside vessels piloted by beings her species had never met before. Together they fought for the same principle. Freedom. Captain Lee, came a voice over the communication channel. It was Vorthmek, an elder of the Ashani. Your people have taught us something we had forgotten. What is that? Hyojin asked, as she dodged coalition fire. That some things are worth dying for. We hid for so long because we were afraid to die. But watching humans choose death over slavery has reminded us who we used to be. The coalition began to retreat, not because they were losing, but because they were afraid. For the first time in 3,000 years, the coalition was facing an enemy that grew stronger when hurt, braver when threatened. Supreme Overlord Kethmaran's voice screamed across all frequencies. All coalition forces, implement final solution. Protocol: destroy everything. Kill every ship, every planet, every form of life that opposes us. But as the coalition ships prepared their planet-killer weapons, something else happened. On coalition worlds across the galaxy, member species began to rebel. The Luminals, beings of pure energy, turned off the power systems on coalition battle stations. The Kivar, insect-like workers, sabotaged weapons factories. Even the Synthax, artificial beings programmed to obey, began questioning their orders. Why are they rebelling now? Commander Velthok asked Marshal Sithkol as reports came in from 100 worlds. Because they see what humans are willing to sacrifice for freedom, Sithkol replied. They see that resistance is possible. On Earth, Dr. Song received a priority message from the hidden research stations. Professor Nayung Lim, working in a timeline that now existed only in quantum echoes, had sent the plans for the Master, Gates through time. Doctor, her assistant Dr. Park said, we could build one. A Master Gate that controls all the others. What would we need? The willing sacrifice of about 10,000 people. Their life energy would power the gate permanently. Dr. Song looked at the plans. With a Master Gate, humans could connect every free species in the galaxy. They could coordinate resistance across thousands of worlds. They could turn the rebellion into a revolution, but it would cost 10,000 lives. Put out the call for volunteers, she said quietly. Within an hour, 50,000 people had volunteered to die for the Master Gate. Dr. Song had to choose who would live and who would die. She chose the oldest volunteers first, people who had lived full lives and wanted to give the young a chance at freedom. They came to the laboratory singing old human songs about sacrifice and honor. As the Master Gate powered up with their life energy, something beautiful happened. The gate did not just open in space, it opened in time as well, connecting past and future. Through the gate stepped a figure that made everyone gasp. It was Admiral Miran Yoon, but not the Miran from this timeline. It was the Miran who had died 5 years ago in the original timeline, when Earth had fallen. I bring greetings from the timeline where we failed, she said to her living counterpart. And I bring an army of the dead who refused to stay dead. Behind her came the ghosts of everyone who had died in the original war. Colonel Kyung-Soo Jang, who had sacrificed New Busan. Professor Nayung Lim, who had died sending the time message. Captain Dalhyun Kim, scientist Bo-Ram Choi, all the brave humans who had given their lives for a cause they believed in. They were not alive, but they were not gone either. The Master Gate had pulled them from the collapsed timeline and given them new purpose. We cannot fight as we once did, the ghost of Colonel Kyung-Soo explained. But we can guide. We can teach. We can show others how to fight without fear. The final battle began not with weapons, but with words. The ghost of Captain Hyo-Jin Lee broadcast across the galaxy, her voice reaching every species under coalition rule. This is Captain Lee of the human vessel Never Surrender. I died 5 years ago fighting for freedom. I died badly, in pain, far from home. But I died free. And that death has power. Her words were translated into 1,000 languages, carried to 1,000,000 worlds by the Master Gate Network. The Coalition teaches that death is failure. They are wrong. Death in service of an ideal is victory. Death protecting those you love is triumph. Death that inspires others to fight is immortality. On Coalition worlds, species that had lived under oppression for millennia began to understand. Death was not the worst thing that could happen. Slavery was worse. Submission was worse. Living without hope was worse. The revolution spread like wildfire through the galaxy. Not all species joined. Some were too afraid. Some had been broken for too long, but enough joined to change everything. Supreme Overlord Kethmaran made a final desperate attempt to stop the rebellion. He gathered the remaining coalition fleets around Veltheros and prepared to destroy his own capital rather than lose it to rebels. "If we cannot rule the galaxy," he announced, "then no one will rule it. We will destroy every world, every species, every form of life until only emptiness remains." But the ghosts of dead humans had one more surprise. Engineer Jae-min Oh and scientist Bo-ram Choi, working with technologies from multiple timelines, had built something impossible. A weapon that could destroy ideas. Not a physical weapon. A conceptual one. A device that could reach into minds across the galaxy and erase the concept of dominance through force. "Are you sure this will work?" Dr. Song asked as they prepared to activate it. "No," admitted the ghost of Dr. Oh. "But we are sure that not trying will fail." The weapon activated. Across the galaxy, in the minds of every coalition leader, a simple thought appeared. What if we are wrong? For 3,000 years, the coalition had never questioned their right to rule. They had believed that might made right, that strength justified oppression, that order was worth any cost. Now for the first time they doubted. High Chancellor Zefthara felt the doubt creep into his crystal consciousness. What if humans were right? What if some things were worth dying for? What if freedom was more important than order? The doubt spread to his officers, his soldiers, his entire species. And with doubt came the first crack in the system that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. Coalition ships stopped firing. Coalition worlds declared independence. Coalition species began to remember what they had been before they became oppressors. The war ended not with a bang, but with a whisper. "We surrender." But humans had taught the galaxy a new lesson. Surrender was not always the end. Sometimes, it was the beginning of something better. Years later, on the rebuilt worlds of the free galaxy, children played games that had been impossible under coalition rule. Human children played with Ashani children. Kethmori children played with Vrentak children. Former enemies became friends. In the parks of New Earth, the planet built to replace the original that had been moved to safety in another timeline, monuments stood to honor those who had paid the ultimate price. The monuments were simple stone, markers with names carved deep. Admiral Miran Yoon, Colonel Kyungsoo Jung, Professor Na Young Lim, Captain Hyo Jin Lee, Dr. Jin Ae Song,